coming up in a minute here, we're going to have our next panel come up, and they're going to be talking about accelerating the culture in the NFT space. But that's a really cool thing about the blockchain technology is we can save all this, and it's all going to be saved on there. You know, so if you have the rookie card of something in the NFT space, if you're trying to preserve your heritage as far as explaining your culture, all that can be done within this Web3 space, and that's what's awesome about it. And it's a great equalizer for everyone, which is why we're hearing from a lot of our panelists today. I'm going to see if our crew is ready backstage for our next panel. All right, a round of applause, because we're going to accelerate the culture in the NFT space. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Hope y'all having a phenomenal day. It's a packed out crowd today, super excited. Elbow to elbow in here, so super sweet. I'm Russ from the 40 Acres DAO.
I'm Jose, really glad to be here. Hello to everybody.
And so I guess today we're going to be talking about how we can accelerate the culture forward with NFTs. So super exciting. You know, a lot of times we look at NFTs as a keyword, a buzzword right now, but I think that there's so much utility, so much opportunity that lies within it. And I'm super excited that we have the honor today to just share that with you guys. So I guess quick backstory. I started 40 Acres 8 months ago. With the full focus of creating self-sustaining communities of color, utilizing blockchain. Just trying to help onboard more people of color into the Web3 space. So I'm like, the only thing really stopping us is digital literacy, understanding the terminology, the vernacular, because really the language is a form of gatekeeping for the everyday person. No one really cares about liquidity pools or staking or, you know, what a floor is, all these nuances that come with NFTs. So we had to try to find an engaging way to, you know, aggregate that information. So again, our whole thing was just how can we educate, empower, and engage our community and help them on board into what Web3 space is. So, Jose, I would love if you want to talk about your project and what you're doing.
Yeah, actually I started like 5 years ago, and for me it was like just a call so as to align my personal purpose. I saw in blockchain, in crypto, and afterwards in NFTs, a way of making that purpose come true. And I love the title of this talk because accelerating culture, it comes to me like NFTs has no boundaries. NFTs is borderless. When we always speak about a successful NFT collection, actually we are speaking about communities, and we are speaking about culture. And culture has to do mainly with constructions that make us feel comfortable, make us feel safe. And this historically had to do with IDs and passports, and that completely changed with blockchain, with NFTs, with a global market, with a global community. And now we feel that we are speaking the same language when we hear "walk me" and when we hear IRL, and we are speaking like the same language at the same time, but from different backgrounds.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing that is so beautiful about the Web3 space is the underlying factor of community and what that means. One thing I wanted to kind of piggyback and talk about is like, what exactly is culture, right? Culture is nothing more. One of the most profound things I've ever heard is culture is nothing more than just decentralized storytelling, right? And so if you look at it, we're kind of all going through the same thing, but maybe just through different lenses. And so the culture of Web3, NFTs, is very memeified right now. I kind of love it. You know, like the unifying GM waking up in the morning, right? Or how markets, bearish versus bullish, all these different nuances when it comes to what culture is in Web3. And kind of one of our missions is like, how can we diversify this culture? Because truth be told, like most of the people who need it most are not in these rooms. They're charging $600 for this conference. People who need it most, that's out of their price range, right? And there are great alternatives, there's grants and whatnot, but that needs to be elevated. That needs to be put front forward, right? And pack out these rooms with people who need the information the most. We can't just have an echo chamber of GMs to each other. We're not gonna make it that way, right? Or just have a bunch of white tech bros, right? We need diversification. So I think that's what kind of helps push the culture forward in the NFT space.
I'm sure about that, and we have to believe that the technology should be a vehicle. We are here for the benefits, for the culture, and we are not here just for the code. The code has to be the mean, and we have to care about who are we impacting with what we are doing, and actually we have to be loyal and true with our moral. And I think that the culture starts when you see on the other one the same moral, the same belief that make you go and push forward. And that's what I think that all of us have here, and this has to be even huge. But I think that this is not an issue about moral, but this is an issue about spreading the word. And accelerating the culture has to do just with spreading the word and tell which one are the benefits of this technology and how this could be life-changing.
Agreed, wholeheartedly. And I'm a person who always looks for solutions. I would hate for this to be just, trauma bonding session. That's not really the vibes we're trying to go here for. So I would love to kind of hear, and I'll throw out some solutions I think that could help with accelerating the culture forward. First and foremost, I think that really helping onboard the next 100 million users, a diversified crowd of really cultural connoisseurs, I think, and I think that there's people who really innately understand pop culture or, community organizing, and I think those are the people who should really, be able to have access to this information. Because again, this language is a barrier for a lot of people, let alone pricing and gas fees and all these other nuances, but just the information alone, the difference between a cold wallet and a hot wallet, right? Yesterday, I had the honor to throw an event with our DAO where we had Styles P pull up from the locks, and we got to onboard him. And something I learned just giving away free NFTs is there's a lot of digital anxiety. When people see multiple steps on a screen, they get nervous. They start shaking. And I'm it's literally riskless, it's free. It's so crazy to think about how people have trust issues in a trustless system, right? So I just love to kind of hear a couple of your thoughts on what are some of the solutions you think could be really valuable in trying to help accelerate the culture.
Yeah, well, my background is I was born in Argentina, mainly the same situation as emerging markets and Latin America, and that has to do with the lack of access to financial products and services, the lack of English spoken people. So it's the 6% of the whole population just speaking in English. So if you consider that the whole information or mainly almost of the information it's in English, so you have over there 94% of the people that won't be aware of the benefits of this technology. So sometimes we don't think about the barriers that we are having here. And it's this anxiety. Imagine if you are not able to read what you actually don't know, and you have to trust not only in what you technologically don't know, but instead of that, a different language. So we have to care about getting all of the people on board, and I think that has to do with giving better products, developing inclusive products, and this is something weird that happened. I brought a wallet which actually was supported by UNICEF, and I love to tell this because sometimes when I tell the people that we were supported by UNICEF, all of them say, why UNICEF? Why UNICEF with crypto and blockchain and inclusion? And actually this is nice to say because they saw on us the chance or the potential to break intergenerational cycles of poverty and create that way a lasting social and economic impact so as to achieve social promotion. That is huge, and if we are aware about the responsibility that this brings us, and Web3, it's actually, we are all able to build, and that's like the task. Yep. We are all in the same situation of changing people's lives. It's just being a go-getter. And from there on, I think that if we care about those who actually are not able to get into the system, and we know that, just another fact, the 65% of people don't have access to financial products and services in emerging markets. So if we just take those two facts, we are leaving mostly all of the people outside of these benefits. So our journey has to be on that direction. We have to be forward thinkers, forward lookers, but still we don't have to forget which one are the real issues that will make our lives better or worse.
And I'll add on to that, because there are a lot of great points you said. I think another major focus has to be the shift between the speculative market and the actual utility of blockchain. Because so many other people are focused on minting another ape derivative project trying to get rich overnight, rather than like the actual generational wealth transfer that's happening right before our eyes. So like once people kind of like get out of this mindset of, you know, playing the minting game and gas wars and all these other things, then I think that a major shift can really happen. But really, how does that happen? You know, because it seems like only really the degenerates, right? The traders and the NFT flippers are really the people using blockchain, rather than the actual utility of, you know, a public ledger, whether it be like decentralized identity or the community organizational capabilities when it comes to DAOs and some of the other tooling. The other part of it is like the tooling just isn't there yet, right? The interface is such a problem. Like people in our community specifically, right? Like don't even have bank accounts. So like that's a whole thing trying to set up a MetaMask, right? They use Cash App. So I think that the next thing has to be building a super easy UI that looks similar to Cash App and that people are already accustomed to. Because again, digital anxiety is a real thing for people. Like I had to onboard my she's up there. I don't know how exactly she was. My grandma, right? And it was so overwhelming for her because she had to put her social in, KYC, and so many different things. She's like, this is a scam. I'm about to lose all my money. I'm like, Grandma, you put in $50. Like, it can't go to zero, right? Hopefully not. But I think nonetheless, again, education has to be at the forefront of everything. And relatability. Like, it needs to be from sources that look like people who people can relate to. Because if it doesn't, like chances are if an older white gentleman was up here talking about DeFi, I would tone him out. But if like Quavo or something from the Migos starts talking about DeFi and smart contracts, I'm more probably adept to listening. So relatability is very important. And the last thing I'll add too, as far as the conference goes, we need more people in here, right? Proximity is everything. Like just the ability, if you don't understand crypto, that's fine. Come to these conferences, sit down and learn. Because you might hear a gem or two, a nugget that resonates with you. That's why Clubhouse was so amazing, because you had proximity to people who had major alpha. So yeah.
I think that taking just this shift that you just mentioned, I think that the first shift has to do with a shift of mindset. We were born in a society in which we needed a third party for everything. We are so aware of a third party that takes a piece of it for everything that it's difficult to make that shift. It's just changing our minds so as to be aware that now we don't need any third party. Instead, he's adding real value. If somebody is adding real value to the chain, he must be on it. If not, I don't need him. Because we now have a new way of relationships that has to do with the peer-to-peer. I can borrow, I can lend, I can invest, I can show who I am just by myself. I don't need a notary. I don't need somebody tells who I am. And that's something deep, because we were born like that, and we were like that like for the last 800 years, or if you want, since the beginning. Because going back just a couple of centuries, we used to depend on the prince, on the king, so as to let us or not to do something, to marry, to trade, to buy, to go away, to come back. So this is a completely new state of mind. And that's tough, because you were speaking about digital anxiety. And imagine if you have to throw everything away that you had in your mind, and your family and your elder people, and now it's like playing a new game. The rules are way different. And that's what I would love to live here. It's like, it's okay that we start to think differently. What we don't have to lose, it's the moral, the values. Who are we impacting with what we are doing? And I think that if we go through there and that's the path, everything will be okay.
Yeah, agreed. And to add on to that, it's like we all kind of have a responsibility in one form or another to like educate someone else around us. Like if you're blessed enough to be in these rooms, to be around these people and be cognizant of what is happening, like you should be able to share it with at least one other person. Like help them set up their wallet. It's not a hard task, right? And it doesn't really require too much of you. If you want to, go the extra step, drop a little ETH in their wallet, you know what I'm saying? That helps, or a little Bitcoin or whatever. But I think that like we really have to understand like, okay, each one teach one. And I think that's how we really take a grassroots approach. I think that even against the whole antithesis of decentralization and like, self-sovereignty, I think that there has to be a layer of like governmental help, right? Like community organizing programs around Web3, like initiatives like what Jay-Z is doing with Jack Dorsey and the Bitcoin communities, right? So if we had community centers really preaching the gospel of blockchain, I think that it has more grassroots approach. And also just gamifying this whole process. Like, this shit is kind of boring if you think about it. Like the smart contracts and whatnot, that's not really sexy or appealing. Like the people who need it most could really care less about lines of code, but it's more about what it can do for them, about what it can offer these people, right? Like full sovereignty. That's such a like outlandish idea for a lot of us, right? I mean, not a lot of us in these rooms, but outside these rooms. Like we're not used to decentralization and having full custody over our funds, right? We're accustomed to banks taking our money, loaning it out to other people, and then giving us crumbs on our money. Like, that's really crazy if you think about it. That's the scam. But really just making it an easy way for people to understand this information, right? Information aggregation is everything. That's how we accelerate the culture forward. And also this concept of like hacker houses, I think they're super dope, right? Where people can come together, cultivate relationships, and build in public. That's important for people as well. And not even just those who have a technical background. Like I hate to think like there's just hacker houses where just a bunch of coders who are kind of antisocial and don't really have a bunch of EQ, but like just typing, right? But like the community managers are just important as back-end developers, right? And I think that in a few months, maybe in the year, next year for sure, that being a Discord moderator will be a 6-figure paying job for a lot of startups, a lot of people. So really just taking advantage of the opportunity in front of us. And if you don't have the technical background, still welcoming these people in and like showing them that there's other opportunities that lie within these. Really, you got to highlight the opportunities. And people care more about what it does for them rather than the technology itself. I think that's a real focal point when it comes to accelerating the culture.
And just taking something that you just say, at this point, we have to do things that don't scale. And that's helping somebody to figure out how to set their wallet, how to buy their first ETH their first coin, how to send, how to receive. And from there on, that's exponential. I think that over there we are growing a root that would never end to grow. And we have that responsibility. As you say, I'm sure we are just a couple of us that can be here and receive this information, but we need more translators. I think that what you just said about community managers, community builders, the ones who are subtitling this awkward, this confusing, and this difficult word are the translators. And it's for sure the heaviest task now and for a lot of time ahead. I think that we will have to keep onboarding people so as to get to know real benefits about this and not just show them the structure, the architecture, and the code, but instead of that, start speaking about the time you will earn by being sovereign about your capital, the time you will earn so as to be happy, continuing to painting, to read, to be with your family, real benefits for real life, that will bring adoption.
Agreed. And I think there's a couple other things. I mean, we could talk on this topic all day. We got about 4 minutes left and kind of wrap it up. Last couple of things I'll say, we definitely need more people in these conferences again. Like, let's figure out how to bring somebody next year. And I would love to see if NFT.NYC could offer some type of programs to those who are less fortunate, who need it most. Because, again, like, hate to say it, but a lot of satellite events have more attendance, right? There's a lot more alpha in these satellite events. But these conferences are great because you network and you're around other people who don't think you're crazy when you're talking about, you know, the DeFi play you just made on SushiSwap and how you traded this dog coin for this ape coin, and you know, so it's always good just to be around other like-minded individuals. But I think that, and I hate the term normies, I think we have to like stop saying that because that ostracizes them and that puts them in a category. I think that we have to have a lot more grace in the space and being patient with people, right? So I think that that's important. And really, I have this conversation with one of my closest friends, Ant Marshall. He has a DAO called Lyricist Lounge, and we talk about like protecting the alphas and not in like a toxic masculinity way, but those who are on the front lines, aggregating information, translating information. Like, if you're not doing that, support someone else who is, right? Whether it be mentally, spiritually, physically, financially, definitely helps. But like, again, just supporting those people who are out there on the front lines, sharing what's happening with blockchain and really pushing it forward. Last couple, I guess we can quick shills and whatnot. Today's the last day. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gitcoin. They have a grant round, and it's grant round 14. And so they have a super interesting concept called quadratic funding, where if you like donate $1, they'll match it up to X amount, however many dollars. So they really incentivize more people donating, right? So it's like, for example, with 40 acres, we're part of diversity and inclusion round. So if you guys were to donate $1, we get $33. How crazy is that? So, long story short, you know, it incentivizes 100 people to donate $1, then one person donating $100. So I think that's a really cool way to, like, you know, again, accelerate the culture, because we're working on a plethora of things from literacy hubs to real life hacker houses, IRL activations, workshops, kind of doing all the work we talked about today. So if you would like to support, feel free, no worries. But yeah, Jose, you got anything you want to show?
That's great. And on the same line, I think that this wrap up with aligning purposes and which one is the impact that we are able to achieve. And that's why we in Excapit, we also believe that finances shouldn't be just about APY. And that's why we should be aware that we also should keep our finances into a social destiny. So that's great that we plan our wealth, but we should plan it in a social ecosystem. Because if we are okay, that's great. But if all of us are great, I'm super, super sure that that will be mind-blowing. Our state would be excellent. We will be happy, and we won't have lots of issues that we are having because we are struggling between the ones who have and the ones who don't. So if we start building a different finance from the social perspective, from the impact perspective, that will be life-changing for all of us. So
Great.
thanks for having us here.
Thank you guys, appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter. I'm RussLive215 and 40 Acres.
Jose Trajtenberg.
Last thing I'll say is WAGME is not really true unless those people, we need more people in here. We need more people who understand the information. The only people who are gonna make it are those who are in the spaces, who are learning information, and who have access and resources.
Have a great day.
Thank you very much. I totally agree. You know, we need more than just those 400, same 1,000 wallets collecting those NFTs. Thank you very much, gentlemen. They'll be able to get.
RUSS Live 215, Russ Live 215.
They'll be right back up there, up top, if you guys want to meet with them and check them out. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have an awesome one.